Well, we're back again. And the subject of today's discussion is no other than someone who I consider to be the most talked about person in any period of time in history, given all the communication mode we have and its insatiable appetite to continue to be in the news. No other than Donald Trump. But before we start, let me ask you, if you support the channel, you like the content, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. Let me be clear from the outset. This wasn't something people struggle to recognize. When Donald Trump circulated this meme, people across the globe understood it instantly. Whether you're Black American, whether you're Caucasian British, whether you're Chinese, whether you're Japanese, if you're in the Caribbean, in Africa, and Europeans, you got it. You recognize it. The reaction wasn't confusion. It was disbelief. Disbelief that in 2026, with all the history, all the context, and all the supposed progress that we have made as a people and a society, this still happened. And that global reaction matters because it tells us something very important. This wasn't manufactured outrage. This wasn't people looking for racism. It didn't need explanation. It needed, and it got, acknowledgement. This was collective recognition followed by shock. So, when some Trump supporters try to minimize this, understand what's really happening. They're not confused. They're on the defense. They're defensive. I have watched a lot of reactions to this video, and not surprisingly, one of the clearest and most thoughtful reaction came from someone outside the United States. A young Black British reporter looked at this and said his first instinct was that it had to be fake because it was so morally reprehensible. He couldn't believe a US president would post such a video. That alone tells you how far this president has crossed the line. But the reporter didn't stop there. Listen to the clip.
Image come across my social media. I thought it must be fake. I know the president and those around him have said and done some despicably racist things in the past, but this? Now, prior to being in office, Trump and his father, Fred, were sued by the US Department of Justice in the 1970s for refusing to rent apartments to Black tenants. He then, in the 80s, led calls for the death penalty for 5 young Black men who became known as the Central Park Five, who were wrongly convicted of a brutal rape. And even when it became clear that they were innocent, he continued to claim they were guilty. And, of course, he was the one who led the racist conspiracy theory that Barack Obama was not a legitimate president because, as Trump loudly and wrongly claimed, Obama wasn't born in the US. That became known as the birther conspiracy. But even with that history, and there are more examples, more recent ones too, I still could not really believe what I was seeing when that image came across my timeline. Never did I think I'd see a sitting president of the United States posting a video containing such an overt, unquestionably racist image. Now, the argument made by some that this video, when played in full, isn't racist is laughable in its naivety and offensive in the assumption it makes about the audience that saw it. Its creator made a decision to depict the Obamas as apes. Its poster made a decision to share it on his platform. Now, not that this should need explaining, but the dehumanization of Black people in this way is a trope dating back hundreds of years. It's something which had for many years been confined to the dustbin of history while still very much a part of the vocabulary of white supremacists. But something's changed. Maybe it's social media, maybe it's something else, but something has changed. We're in a new reality where, for more than 12 hours, Trump's White House thought this was okay. Now, as I was preparing for today, my 5-year-old son was running around the house playing. Each time he passed my screen and that image was up, I had to move my laptop. I didn't want him to see it, to have to explain that, to have that conversation. But have that conversation, I will, as my mother had with me. There's been an increase in racist language and behaviour online where it's found an audience and metastasised. Now, it's hard to quantify how much it's increased as social sites are many and disparate, but in the US, a study in the Journal of Epidemiology found in an analysis of some 55 million tweets between 2011 and 2021, a 16% increase in racist language. The New York Times report anti-Semitic and anti-Muslim hate speech jumped by 919% and 422% respectively in the aftermath of the Hamas attacks on the 7th of October and the Israeli response. And a study from Goldsmith University here in the UK found 95% of minority groups see racist content online. 16% see it every day, and 42% of those asked say it was damaging to their mental health. So this sort of thing matters. Now, this will not be the last time something like this happens. The White House has taken it down, blaming a junior staffer, which is odd as we're told that Trump does lots of his own posting, and it went up at around midnight, but at least it's not up there anymore. But the damage has been done. Whatever mask there may have been has slipped. The test for all of us now comes in how we respond the next time it happens.
What made this reporter's commentary so powerful is that he didn't treat this as an isolated incident. He placed it within Trump's entire record going back to the 70s. We know the situation in the 70s, what happened with housing discrimination against blacks. We know when he started running, before he started running for president, the whole Obama birther conspiracy. Decades of racial rhetoric. Repeated attempts to dehumanize blacks. We know his situation with the Central Park Five in the 80s, who were falsely accused of rape, who were exonerated, got over $40 million in payouts to them for being wrongly accused and sent to jail, and him taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times asking for these kids to be executed. We know him. And then when they were exonerated, years later, he refused to apologize because he never apologizes. So the reporter clearly articulated Trump's history of trying to dehumanize blacks. And he was visibly outraged by the effort to mitigate it, dismiss it, or wave it away, because he understands something fundamental. Language shapes culture. When racist language is normalized at the top, it just doesn't stay there. It filters down. That's why he expressed real concern about the rise in racist language across society. He also made two very crucial points. Yes, the video was taken down after being up, I think, over 12 hours. But the behavior already happened. And blaming a no-name staffer doesn't explain a pattern. During Trump's previous administration, there were dozens of retractions or clarifications tied to social media posts. Yet accountability almost never followed. The excuse changes, the behavior doesn't. This reported conclusion was chilling. Whatever mask existed has slipped, has been taken off. The question is, what happened the next time this happens? Because we know there'll be a next time. Now, the reporter couldn't touch on everything. Here's some things that is important that I want to say. And it's important to say this clearly. Even with all what the reporter says, he basically scratched the surface. He didn't get into Trump's sustained assault on DEI. After the 2023 US Supreme Court ruling on affirmative action, corporate America took the hint and went on a spree. By mid-2024, job postings with DEI in the title had dropped roughly 44% year over year. That's not ideology, that's payroll. This isn't abstract. This translated into Black executives quietly being pushed out, programs being dismantled, the merit suddenly becoming a weaponized word. And if you look at the various US government institutions and here's the list, there are a number of Black executives who have been removed, who have resigned because of the pressure from the administration. The report also didn't get into how coded language is now used to question competence and legitimacy without ever saying the word race out loud. We saw this play out in real time. I jog your memory. Go back to January 2025, the helicopter plane crash in Washington, D.C. What did J.D. Vance insinuate without evidence? That DEI may have played a role. Not only J.D. Vance, other conservative persons, prominent persons, including the president. But in that crash, most of the individuals involved were white. In fact, all the helicopter persons were Caucasian. This wasn't analysis. This was insinuation. And insinuation has always been one of racism's most effective tools. So let's be honest. The evidence isn't selective, it's overwhelming. Now, let's go to the official White House response about the video. The White House response came from no other than Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. You see it on the screen. This is from an internal meme video depicting President Trump as the king of the jungle and Democrats as characters from The Lion King. Please stop the fake outrage and report on something today that actually matters to the American public. That was the official White House response. That response wasn't meant to explain, it was meant to end the conversation. But here's what completely undercuts that defense. One, The Lion King didn't have an orangutan in it, didn't have apes in it. And two, they took the meme down. Institutions don't retract content they truly believe is harmless. Publicly, the message was, this doesn't matter. Privately, the action taken suggests this went way too far. That contradiction tells you everything you need to know. Previously, when Trump talked about immigrants, he's always expressed the support or the view that why can't we bring in people from Norway or Sweden, mainly Europeans or Caucasians like him. That wasn't about skills. That was about who belongs and who he wants in this country. He later described African and Caribbean nations as S-holes. He launched his first presidential campaign by calling Mexicans rapists and criminals. He pushed the lie that Haitians were eating dogs. He built an entire political movement on the false claim that America's first Black president wasn't really American. Venezuela, then Greenland, then Iran, and Cuba. Those narratives are starting to lose oxygen. We need more oxygen. He needs oxygen. Race, historically, does not. So, this served two primary purposes. One, it activates a base. Time and time again, it will tolerate or excuse this rhetoric. Two, it keeps the news media cycle spinning, fragmented, and distracted. This isn't chaos, it's a pattern. It's not accidental. That's strategy laid on instinct. However, I will say this. There have been a number of Republicans, as you can see from the screen, who have come out and criticized his last action. Some who are die hard in his corner, but they know he has crossed a point or a zone that he should not have crossed. Now, let's think about Trump's response. Trump was asked directly, who sent the video? Would anyone be fired? Would he apologize? Listen to the clip and look at his response.
That you took down earlier today, the White House says that a staffer sent it. Who sent it, and are you going to fire them?
I looked at it, I saw it, and I just looked at the first part. It was about voter fraud in someplace, Georgia, was a lot of voter fraud, 2020 voter fraud, and I didn't see the whole thing. I guess during the end of it, there was some kind of a picture that people don't like. I wouldn't like it either, but I didn't see it. I looked at the first part, and it was really about voter fraud and the machines, how crooked it is, how disgusting it is. Then I gave it to the people. Generally, they'd look at the whole thing, but I guess somebody didn't. And they posted, and we took it down, and we did it. You know, but that was a voter fraud that nobody talks about. They don't like to talk about that post. We took it down as soon as we found out about it.
Mr. President, a number of Republicans are calling on you to apologize for that post. Is that something you're going to do?
No, I didn't make a mistake. I mean, I look at a lot of thousands of things, and I looked at the beginning of it. It was fine. They had that one post, and I guess it was a takeoff. By the way, a lot of people covered. If you look at where it came from, I guess it was a takeoff on the Lion King, and certainly it was a very strong post in terms of voter fraud. Nobody knew that was at the end. If they would have looked, they would have seen it, and probably they would have had the sense to take it down. But that was a takeoff on the Lion King.
Did you notice what happened? No accountability, no apology, no acknowledgement of harm. Instead, you reframed the video about its core content being about voter fraud. So let's pause there. Independent investigations, including years of work by groups like the Brennan Center for Justice, have consistently found that the voter impersonation fraud occurs at a rate, you listen up, between 0.0003% and 0.0025%. That seems minute, inconsequential. Does that appear to be an epidemic? That is just statistical noise. So this wasn't clarification. Again, as he normally does brilliantly, it was deflection. He said he looked at 1,000 things. He called it a takeoff from the Lion King. That's not accountability. That's intentionally distancing you from something that you did, which was inappropriate. Now, I want to take you back to something. Before Trump ran his first term, and a number of people in his cabinet who supported him and their previous perception and perspective on Trump. So this is part of the most damning part to me. What you're about to see weren't reactions formed after Trump came to power. These were warnings issued before cabinet positions, before proximity, before ambition and greed took over. This is character testimony. Listen closely. And all these individuals are somewhere affiliated with him. Either they're in the Senate, like Ted Cruz, or they're part of his cabinet and administration. Listen closely.
There's no way we are going to allow a con artist to take over the conservative movement, and Donald Trump is a con artist.
What do you think a Trump government would look like, Senator?
It would be chaos.
I mean, we're liable to wake up one morning and Donald, if he were president, would have nuked Denmark. That's not the temperament of a leader to keep this country safe. And the American people are not interested in this circus sideshow of insults.
There is definitely an element of Donald Trump's support that has its basis in racism or xenophobia.
I never liked him.
I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I'm definitely not going to vote for Trump because I think that he's projecting very complex problems onto simple villains.
Well, he's not my candidate, but people came to this country for religious freedom. So I believe his statement was un-American, and I don't agree with it. I think everybody knows that I don't support him in this primary election. Everybody in this country is very frustrated. This president and this administration have shown us how not to run a country and have placed a lot of burdens on individuals, and people are struggling.
If he builds the wall the way he built Trump Towers, he'll be using illegal immigrant labor to do it.
And at the end of the day, do you believe Donald Trump, who always tells the truth? Just kidding. Or do you believe that woman on that tape?
No, you're not. Quote, unfit for office.
He called him a, quote, cynical a-hole.
The action that this Trump administration has taken in reneging and breaking our role in the Iran nuclear agreement when Iran is complying with the agreement.
Trump is a really bad candidate, and frankly, I think a really bad person.
Trump has committed an act of war. He has pushed our country into a state of war with Iran, a war that will prove to be far more devastating and costly than anything that we saw with the war in Iraq or the war in Afghanistan. It'll make those wars look like a picnic.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
So, ask the only honest question. If all these individuals who are part of this inner circle knew this, what changed? It wasn't Trump. He may have gotten worse. Right? What has changed? You know what changed? It's their incentives. It is about power, ambition, career survival. These individuals present themselves as patriots, but patriotism requires sacrifice. What they chose was self-preservation. They didn't defend America. They extracted from it. And America, at home and abroad, is paying the price. So let's end this honestly. This isn't about misunderstanding. It's about normalization. People who knew the danger, choosing ambition over integrity, this isn't patriotism. It's betrayal dressed up as loyalty. And history will remember it that way. If you like this content and you want to see more of these, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you. Peace out.